I'm Maya, 35 years old, and I never thought my wedding day would turn into a pile of broken pieces. Right at the entrance to the reception hall, we had placed a large wedding photo in a crystal glass frame. The moment David and I exchanged vows, radiant and full of hope. It was my idea. A way to share our happiness with everyone from the very first moment. My brother, Leo, shouted loud enough for everyone to hear. "Want a new life? I'll show you one," and swung a champagne bottle, smashing it straight into the photo. Crack. Glass shards exploded everywhere, piercing right through the happy faces of my husband and me. The sound of breaking glass rang out like a gunshot in the silent night. I stood there, heart pounding, as my marriage, not even begun, was torn to shreds. But what froze me wasn't Leo's action, it was what came after. My parents rushed over, not to me, but to Leo. "He's just upset, that's all," my mother said, embracing him as if he were the victim. "Maya, you know your brother is going through a difficult time." My husband stood frozen as whispers spread through the crowd. I wanted to scream, wanted to demand an explanation. But when I looked into my mother's eyes, her gaze pleading with me to forgive, don't make a scene, I fell silent. And in that moment of silence, I saw something. In the crowd, Leo turned to look at Mom. She nodded slightly, an almost unconscious nod. They had planned this. Leo's action wasn't just a momentary outburst of anger. It was years of selfishness and demands being enabled, now exploding. It was a staged performance to teach me a lesson for daring to refuse him. I bent down, picked up a large shard of glass. In it reflected my face, distorted, shattered. I gripped the shard so tightly it cut into my palm, a small drop of blood falling. Right then, I decided to do something no one could have anticipated. I would not let this pass. Not after they had crossed this final line. What happened next changed everything. I had endured enough. Now it was time for them to understand what it felt like to be pushed to the breaking point. Have you ever faced family drama that turned your life upside down? Share your story in the comments. I read them all. 6 weeks before the wedding, the Brooklyn coffee shop smelled of roasted beans and steamed milk, a pleasant contrast to the crisp cold of the October afternoon. I sat there, my work clothes still crisp, but my mind crumpled after a long day. I arrived 10 minutes early. Leo, as usual, was 20 minutes late. He walked in, bringing with him an air of carefully concealed chaos, an expensive leather jacket I knew he couldn't afford, and hair styled with meticulous care. On my table, a small USB drive peeked out from the corner of my bag. I didn't hide it. I left it there, a reminder to myself of what I had prepared. "Hey, little sis," he said, his usually charming smile slightly forced. We exchanged bland small talk. My work, the weather, a new movie in theaters. I could feel his restlessness, like an actor waiting for the right moment to deliver his most important line. And then, he began. Leo leaned forward, lowering his voice as if about to reveal a state secret. "Just one more time, Maya. This is the real deal. A blockchain startup. NFT authentication technology. They say it could 10x in 6 months." I had heard these words before. Too many times. 5 years ago. I was sitting in my small rental apartment, laptop screen glowing with an acceptance email from the London School of Economics. Master's degree. My dream contained in those lines. Next to the laptop, a small photo frame, a family picture taken when I was 10. 3 people. Me, Leo, and the old piano Mom promised would be mine if I did well in school. I had excelled. But the piano never came. Instead, it was sold to pay off Leo's first business venture. I was just about to pick up my phone to share the good news when it rang. Mom. Her voice panicked, sobbing. Leo. He was in trouble again, a predatory loan for investing in stocks, and now those people were threatening him. "He's your brother, Maya. We have to help him." I looked at the computer screen, at my London dream. Then I looked at the family photo frame. I sighed, closed the laptop. The dry click of the laptop closing sounded like a door slamming shut on my future. The next day, I was at the bank, signing papers to withdraw all the savings I had worked grueling hours for 3 years to accumulate. I took that family photo frame, put it in a box, stored it in the back of a closet. Didn't want to look at it anymore. 2 years ago, David and I stood before a charming little house in suburban New Jersey, hand in hand, the smell of fresh-cut grass and the scent of paint still lingering. We had found it, our first home. "Can you imagine us hanging our wedding photo right there, honey?" I said, pointing to the living room wall. David smiled, kissed my hair. "A big, beautiful frame, in crystal glass, so everyone can see how happy you are." But then the phone rang. Leo had been fired. Attitude problems again. He needed money for rent, and to tide him over while looking for a new job. "Nee." I looked at David, eyes full of apology. He said nothing, just squeezed my hand tighter. "Just as long as this is the last time, sweetheart," he said, his voice carrying a weariness I couldn't ignore. We had to give up that house. Part of the deposit was transferred to Leo's account. And the dream of a wedding photo in crystal glass vanished too. Until now. I returned to the present, watching Leo spout blockchain terminology, eyes bright with false hope. I saw the USB in my bag. Inside were 3 years of financial data I had quietly saved. Every transfer, every loan, every broken promise. David, our home, my future, the wedding photo frame I had ordered. These images gave me strength. "No, Leo," I said. My voice was calm, a calmness I had spent years fighting to achieve. "I already told you, I'm getting married. David and I are putting all our savings toward our house. I can't, and I won't do it anymore. It's time for you to stand on your own 2 feet." The smile on Leo's lips froze, then vanished. The excitement in his eyes died out, leaving only a cold, empty stare. "Really? You're choosing him in your new life. I understand." But before turning away, I saw him glance at the USB in my bag. Something flashed in his eyes. Fear? Anger? I wasn't sure. But I knew he had realized. His little sister was no longer an easy mark. He turned and left, leaving me alone with my cold coffee and a deep sense of unease rising within me. His words weren't acceptance. They were a declaration of war. The final weeks before the wedding passed in a strange tension. Leo disappeared completely. No texts, no calls. His silence hung over every preparation, like dark storm clouds. Then my mother started calling. "You should make up with your brother, Maya," she said in one call, her voice full of reproach. "He's sad and depressed. He feels like you're abandoning him. What kind of wedding doesn't have your own brother there?" She never once asked what had happened. In her story, I was always the one at fault. "Mom, I'm not abandoning anyone," I tried to explain. "I'm just starting my own life." "Your own life?" she scoffed. "Family isn't something you can push aside to have your own life." I confided in David while we were writing thank you cards for the early wedding gifts. "I can't believe he's being this silent. It's not like Leo at all." David put down his pen, looked at me. "Honey, are you sure you still want to invite them, after everything that's happened?" I had thought about it, many times, but a part of me, the part that was still the child who once believed in family, held hope. Hope that Leo would come, apologize, and things would be different. I was wrong. The lavish wedding reception now looked utterly desolate. The smell of cheap champagne and wilted roses mixed together, creating the scent of failure. My parents had rushed Leo home, leaving David and me standing amid the wreckage they had helped create. David was furious. We have to call the police, Maya. Right now. We have to sue him for property damage. He was right. Part of me wanted to do that too. But that person had died hours ago, along with the sound of breaking glass. I bent down, carefully picked up that large shard, the one with my blood on it. I looked into it. No, David. Calling the police would just make us the laughingstock. There would be more whispers, pitying looks. I won't give him that satisfaction. He wants a loud spectacle. He wants me to collapse. I won't play by his rules. I'll create my own. I carefully wrapped the glass shard in a napkin, put it in my purse. Evidence. A reminder. The next morning. The counterattack begins. The next morning. The sun still rose, as if nothing had happened the night before. Our apartment was suffocatingly silent. The 2 suitcases packed for our Hawaii honeymoon still sat awkwardly in the corner, a silent mockery. We hadn't slept. But I didn't feel tired. I felt an unusual focus. Instead of crying, I took action. I sat at my laptop. The first move was simple. I called the bank. Hello, this is Maya Foster. I want to request an immediate freeze on joint savings account number 74. Yes, that's correct. I suspect potential unauthorized transactions. It was the account where I occasionally deposited money to help mom and dad. I knew full well that money wasn't used for electricity bills. Next, I opened email. A brief message sent to Mr. Miller, the family lawyer for the past 20 years. Dear Mr. Miller, I would like to schedule an appointment at your earliest convenience this week to discuss the reallocation of certain assets and family responsibilities. David and I will both attend. Sincerely, Maya Foster. No explanation, no emotion. This was a business transaction. Finally, I started searching. Crypto Genius Fund, Leo Hayes. Within an hour, I had enough evidence showing this was a classic Ponzi scheme. He wasn't just about to lose money, he was about to get tangled in serious legal trouble. I saved everything. The storm of public opinion, I didn't have to wait long. Just hours later, my phone rang. Mom. Maya, what the hell are you doing? I can't withdraw money. The bank says the account is frozen. Your brother needs money to handle some troubles. How can you be so heartless after what happened? After what happened? As if I were the one at fault. I'm just protecting my assets, Mom, I replied, voice calm. We'll talk more at Mr. Miller's office on Tuesday. A lawyer? Are you threatening your own mother? I hung up. For the first time in 35 years. But that was just the beginning. That afternoon, my mother's Facebook exploded. A long post with an old family photo, the one with the piano. A mother's heart is breaking. My daughter, whom I sacrificed my whole life to raise, now turns her back on her family just because of a man. Leo, my only son, is going through difficulties, but his sister refuses to help. When blood doesn't care for blood, what could be more heartbreaking? Yesterday, what should have been the happiest day, became the worst day because of this division. I just want my family to be harmonious. Within an hour, 47 comments, mostly from relatives, family friends. Oh, Maya, how can you let your elderly mother cry like this? Is your new husband more important than your own brother? Poor sister, raising such a rebellious child. Only one person, Aunt Thu, Mom's younger sister, commented differently. You're only telling one side of the story, that's not fair to Maya. But that comment was quickly buried. My phone started going crazy. Messages from people I hadn't spoken to in years. Maya, I'm so disappointed in you. Family comes first, you understand? We were wrong to give you wedding gifts. I read every message, each one like a small knife cut. David sat next to me, face flushed. Don't read anymore, they don't know anything. But I kept reading. I needed to feel all this anger. I needed it as fuel. A message from Leo. You won. You've made me look like the bad guy to everyone. But you know the truth? Mom's right. We were supposed to be family. I looked at that message. Not one apology about the wedding. Not a hint of remorse. Just blame shifting and emotional manipulation. I typed back, Tuesday, Mr. Miller's office, 10 a.m. Be there. Then I blocked his number. That night, I opened the old box in the closet, took out the family photo frame, the picture with the piano. I looked at my 10-year-old face, eyes bright with hope. I had lost too much for this family. Not anymore. I carefully wrapped the frame, prepared to bring it to the lawyer's office. It would be evidence. Not legal evidence, but emotional evidence, to remind myself why I was doing this. The game had begun, and they had just made their first move. Now, it was my turn. Tuesday, Mr. Miller's office. The air in the conference room was cold as a tomb. The dark oak-paneled walls and thick leather-bound law books seemed to absorb all warmth. Light from the large windows was blocked by other buildings, leaving only a gray, emotionless glow. We sat facing each other across the polished mahogany table. On one side, David and I, his hand gripping mine under the table. On the other side, my family. Mom, eyes red from crying or anger, I wasn't sure. Leo, slumped in his chair with a sulking expression. And Dad, a ghost in his own family, silently staring at the wood grain on the table. On my side of the table, the beige folder and the old family photo frame. Mr. Miller, with his silver hair and reading glasses sliding down his nose, cleared his throat. We're here today to... Mom didn't let him finish. I don't understand why we have to be here, she began, voice trembling. This is just a family misunderstanding. Maya, you're overreacting. You're tearing our family apart just because of a small mistake your brother made. We're blood relatives, Leo chimed in, voice full of indifference. I already said. It's all because of her and her new husband. Since she's had him, she doesn't consider us family anymore. She's using the wedding incident as an excuse. I let their accusations ring out and then fade into the heavy silence of the room. I didn't argue. I didn't justify. The war of words had ended that night at the wedding reception. Today was a war of truth. When they finished speaking, I calmly placed the family photo frame on the table, facing them. Dad flinched when he saw it. Do you remember this photo? I said, voice steady. This was the day Mom promised I would have a piano if I got good grades. I did. But the piano never came. Instead, it was sold to pay debts for Leo's first business venture. I was 12 years old. Mom opened her mouth to say something, but I raised my hand. I'm not done. I pulled out the beige folder, placed it on the table. The thump rang out decisively. I'm not going to argue, I'm just going to present the truth. I turned to the first page. This is a statement for the credit card in Mom and Dad's name over the past 6 months. Nearly $20,000 in debt. And here, I pointed to each charge, our business class plane tickets to Vegas, receipts for dinners at 5-star restaurants, a Rolex watch, all Leo's, and all, ultimately, paid for by me through the joint account. Leo went pale. I needed those things for work. What work? I interrupted, voice cold as ice. The work at Crypto Genius Fund? I flipped to the next page. Color printouts from websites, forums, investigation reports. Crypto Genius Fund has been flagged for fraud warnings in 3 states. The founders are under investigation. The FBI has opened a file. I pushed a paper toward Leo. And here's evidence you actively recruited at least 9 other people to invest in it. You're not just about to lose money. You're about to become complicit in federal fraud. The room fell silent, suffocating, but my mother didn't surrender easily. She stood up, voice trembling but determined. Those papers don't prove anything. That was money I gave you. You have no right to demand it back. I raised you, educated you, and now you treat me like this?" She turned to Mr. Miller. "Mr. Miller, you've known our family for 20 years. My daughter is trying to seize family assets." Leo jumped in. "Exactly. She's making all this up. Mom was the one who asked me to help. I'm a victim too. Mom pressured me to do those things, said it was my responsibility to the family." That was the moment I had been waiting for. Leo had just thrown Mom under the bus to save himself. My mother froze, looking at Leo with horror. "Leo? What are you saying?" But I didn't give them time to recover. I pulled out another set of papers, thinner, tied with a blue ribbon. "I have one more thing," I said, my voice suddenly softening. "These are letters." I opened the folder. They were handwritten letters I had sent to my parents over many years, from when I studied abroad, from when I worked, from every important phase of my life. Letters I had sent home but never received replies to. I wrote to Mom and Dad about my London dream. I wrote about the house I wanted to buy with David. I wrote about the wedding I was preparing. My voice broke. "Do you remember those letters?" Mom looked down at the table, unable to meet my eyes. "Every time I gave up a dream to help the family, I wrote a letter. I thought you would understand, would see my sacrifice." Tears began to fall. David squeezed my hand tight. Dad, for the first time, looked up at me. There was something in his eyes. Regret? Shame? "Sweet, sweetheart," he said, voice hoarse. "I'm sorry." In that moment, something inside me nearly broke. I picked up the pen to sign, hand trembling. Maybe I could forgive. Maybe we could start over. Maybe. "She thinks she's so smart," Leo muttered, quiet enough to think no one heard, but in the silent room, everyone heard clearly. "It's all an act. In the end, she'll come back begging us." Time seemed to stop. I put the pen down, wiped my tears, and looked straight at Leo. "Thank you," I said, voice returning to cold. I needed to hear that. I pulled out the final set of papers, sealed in a clear envelope. I saved one thing for just this moment. I pushed it to the center of the table. This is a recording of a phone conversation between Leo and Mom 3 days before my wedding. Leo called Mom saying he would teach me a lesson at the wedding. Mom agreed and said, "Maya needs to know family is more important than outsiders." I pressed play on my phone. Leo's voice rang out clear as day. "Mom, I'm going to do something at the wedding, so Maya knows she can't throw away family like that." "What are you planning to do?" "Don't ask, but you have to defend me no matter what happens. I need you to do that." "I understand. Maya needs to learn this lesson." The audio stopped. Mom went white. Leo stood up, tried to run, but Mr. Miller was already blocking the door. "Sit down, Leo," he said, voice stern for the first time in the meeting. I stood up, placed both hands on the table. "I won't give another penny, but I'll give you a choice, Leo. I've paid for a gambling addiction treatment program and financial counseling at a rehabilitation center in Oregon. Your plane ticket is booked for Friday morning. That's my final help. You accept it, or face the FBI and your creditors on your own." Then I turned to my parents. "And for Mom and Dad, I love you both, but I can't continue being your retirement plan. This agreement will transfer the house currently in all 3 of our names completely to you. It will be entirely yours. In return, I'll be removed from all family financial responsibilities. Completely." I pushed the agreement toward them. "You have 2 choices. Sign this, or I'll give this recording to David's lawyer, and we'll see each other in court. The court will decide about conspiracy to commit vandalism, financial fraud, and every dollar I loaned that was never repaid." Mom stood there, mouth open, speechless. Leo collapsed in his chair, face buried in his hands. After what seemed like an endless silence, Dad finally spoke. "You're right," he said, voice steady but full of weariness. "Your mother and I, we failed you. We let Leo become like this. And we took advantage of you." He took the pen from Mr. Miller's hand. "I'll sign." The scratching sound of pen on paper was the only sound in the room. Mom looked at Dad, then at me, then finally picked up the pen, hand shaking. That was the sound of freedom. 3 months later, the new house. Our new house was smaller than the one we had originally planned, but it was filled with sunlight. Cardboard boxes still sat in some corners, and the smell of fresh paint still lingered. But it was our house, built on a foundation of truth and right choices. I was watering herb plants on the kitchen windowsill when the mailman arrived. Among the bills and junk mail was a postcard. It came from Oregon. The front showed a picture of green pine forests. On the back, just one line in Leo's messy handwriting: "I'm trying." I held the postcard, reading that line over and over. I didn't feel angry, nor did I feel joy or forgiveness welling up. I just felt peace. A quiet acceptance that a chapter of my life had truly closed. I placed the postcard on the windowsill, leaning it against the rosemary plant. "Honey, I finished installing it," David called from the living room. I walked in. He stood before the empty wall where we had planned to hang a large painting, but instead, he had hung something else. A new photo frame. Large, beautiful, made of crystal glass. Inside was a photo we took on the first day we moved into this house, David and me, standing at the front door, smiling. Behind us were cardboard boxes and a future full of promise. Sunlight streaming through the window reflected on the glass surface. Intact. Not a single crack. I thought, "After everything that happened, you deserve this photo," David said, hugging me from behind. "A beautiful frame, in crystal glass, like you once dreamed. But this time, no one can destroy it." I turned around, kissed him. Tears rolled down, but this time they were tears of joy. I walked into the bedroom, opened the bottom drawer. Inside was the broken glass shard from the wedding, the piece I had kept as a reminder. I picked it up, looked at it one last time. Then I walked outside, to the back porch, and threw it in the trash. The small clink as the glass hit the bottom of the bin sounded like a final chapter being closed. 6 months later, the phone rang. An unknown number. I hesitantly answered. "Hello? Maya. It's Mom." Her voice was small, so different from the harsh voice before. "I don't expect you to forgive me, I want you to know that Leo completed his treatment program. He's living in Portland, working at a small bookstore. He's changed, Maya." I remained silent. "And so have I," she continued. "I've been seeing a counselor. I'm starting to understand what I did to you. I'm not asking you to come back. I just want you to know you were right." I looked out the window where afternoon sunlight poured into the living room, shining on the crystal glass frame. "I know, Mom," I said, voice soft but firm. "And I appreciate you calling. Are you happy?" I looked over at David cooking dinner in the kitchen, whistling a cheerful tune. I looked around our little house, simple, but full of light and love. "Yes, Mom, I'm very happy." After hanging up, I sat down on the sofa, picked up a warm cup of tea. David brought out a plate of cookies, sat beside me. "Your mom?" he asked. I nodded. Maybe someday we can rebuild, but not now. Not on the old terms." "You're stronger than I ever imagined," David said, kissing my forehead. I smiled. "You know, there was a time I thought strength meant enduring for family, sacrificing for blood. But now I understand. Real strength is knowing when to say no, knowing when to protect yourself. I put down my tea, looked at the crystal glass frame on the wall. This life is mine. For the first time, it's truly my own. Sometimes love doesn't mean forgiving everything. Sometimes it means knowing when to walk away. I lost a family defined by blood, but I saved myself. And right here, amid the afternoon sunlight and the smell of freshly baked cookies, beside the man who loves me unconditionally, I'm building a new family, a family chosen by love and respect. Not every story has a perfect ending, but every story can have a new beginning. And this is mine.